Hi, I'm Mariah from Sundaylace Creations, and I'm here to teach you to bead. Now, we've been here teaching you to bead in various ways with blogs, but this is our chance to actually show you how I bead. Now, there's a lot of ways you can bead. If you bead differently, that's fine. I am here just to guide you through one of our kits. So this is our poppy kits. It has a template. It gives you the beads. It gives you all the things you need to get started. And I'm going to take you on a journey of creating your own poppy. So when you start your poppy bead set, I want you to think of some things you need as basics. Like you see me here, I have a table so my beads don't fly everywhere. I have some glue. We have some pliers. We have some scissors. And we'll need a lighter. So these are some of the basic things that you will have around your house that's going to help you get started. I also prefer a thimble because when you first start beading, your fingers aren't tough enough to, endure the needle pulling all the time. So if your fingers get sore, this is your best friend, and you could get this at Sundaylace Creations as well. So once you have all the supplies that you need to get started, I want you to look through your package. There's going to be a whole bunch of things in here that's going to help you get started. We give you a tutorial. You can use it or keep watching. We got, this is called Good Felt. It's a beading foundation. And this is a piece of leatherette. So we're going to make a sandwich. So this is your template. You're going to think of this as your grilled cheese. This is the top. You're going to put it on this Good Felt, and we're going to use this to cut it out. So this is going to be eventually sandwiched so that your beadwork is hidden behind here. So this is your beadwork sandwich. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at what you want. There's a lot of beads and a lot of choices. I've put 5 colors in each kit. So if you wanted to do, a dark red or a light red or outlining green, creativity is your friend here. So I'm going to start with just the basics so that it helps you out here. So we're going to start with a red and a black. For those who don't know their beading supplies, these are your rhinestone chains. We'll talk about those later. You're going to get a gem set. And then this is your basics. So this is your needle, your thread, your hooks, anything you need to create your product. You're going to need to open up this package first. So when you look at your findings package, you're going to see there's 3 needles, there's a thread, and then there's all these findings. The easiest way to find that needle is just to dump it out on your table. Okay, here we go. We got our needles and we got our thread. This is going to get you started. What you're going to need to do, step 1, is you're going to have to cut a thread. You're going to want to cut it from here to here. You don't want a long thread. You're just going to be going like this while you're beading. The shorter, the better. You're not going to do yourself a favor by saving time later. Just start with a short thread. And then once you get that stage done, we're going to take your needle, take 1, and we're going to do the hardest part of this whole project is threading this needle. I choose black because it's easier to thread on camera. So once you get your needle threaded, you're going to use a trick I'm going to teach you. So you lay your thread across your finger, the end. You're going to take your needle. You're going to wrap it 3 times. And then you're going to hold it, pinch it, and then it comes out a knot. Once you have your needle and your thread, you're going to get a template. You could trace it out. I find it easier just to let it sit because I want to know exactly where to start my gems. So you want to start your gem from here. So if I put the gem on top, you could glue it down at this point. You're going to tack this gem down. Now if I show you the gem has 2 holes on each side. So you want to line that up so that the holes correlate to your template. Okay, so now that you got your gem centered, you're going to tack it down like a button. So you're going to go up and over, going through the holes. You're going to look at the back. You're going to come up from the other side. Don't worry, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be tacked down. At this point, you're going to want to decide which of these 4 lines you want to start with and get your needle positioned to start from where the gem is. You're going to go ahead and pour some beads out from your kit. I choose black, and we're going to do a quick tutorial on flat stitch. Now there's many ways to do this, but we're going to start with 2 just to get you comfortable. So 2 beads, and then we're going to line them up along the line and follow that outline. So you can push these beads down and go at the very end of those 2 beads. Now we're going to go up through the middle and go through the last bead. That is the basis of flat stitch. So let's try it one more time. We're going to pick up 2 beads. We're going to line it up, being mindful to keep with the line. Push the needle through, and then we're going to come up through the middle. Now there's a quick trick you could try is to use the back to understand where the middle is. I choose to poke it through several times until I find what I need. So then we pick up our last 2, and then we're going to go down, and we're going to pick up from the middle. Now, if you're like me and it's looking a little wobbly, don't worry, I got a hot tip for you. So if you go through the top again and go through all your beads and tack it down, you're going to find your beadwork becomes much more inline and a lot more straighter. So that is really helpful when you're doing straight lines. So at this point, you can choose to whether you're going to go around the petal or start with the next of the crisscross. There's no right way, but here I made a crisscross because that's the easiest way to make your straight lines before you start filling. So you're going to come up here, and then you can either loop it from the top, or you could train track it around. So you're going to finish by going and tracing around those lines. So this one would be the same method. You're picking up 2 beads, and then you're following along the line. So there's many ways to create this poppy. No way is the right way. Just get creative with it and keep going. When we're at this stage, your poppy is now all outlined. We want to fill it. That's what we call when we're sort of going up and down or side to side. In this case, I'm going to show you how I did it from a V shape for the poppy. You could always break a bead at this point if it gets too full. Don't be scared to let your beads breathe. You don't want to overcrowd it. It will make your beadwork bumpy. We're looking for a nice, smooth beadwork. So if you're finding there's one bead that's not acting right, the hot tip is just break it. So now that we're here and our template is done, we're going to fill this in. Now, before we do that, we want to do one more step. We want to remove the template. We want to rip this because we don't want to have this paper. It's going to sort of peek out from the outside. So you want to sort of grab it and pull it off. You could color it in if you prefer. There's a lot of ways to do this, but I find that because we have the red background, it's very forgiving if we have a missed bead or something like that. You could use tweezers for this. You could use, I have these pliers for it. But when you have nice long nails, it also helps to just rip it slowly. I've seen people use water to mist this down to make it more soggy and easier to remove. But at this point, we're just removing the template so that we have a nice outline to start filling in. So when you have your beaded poppy and your outline and your paper's gone, you're going to have this like conundrum of how to start beading. You could bead going line here, line here, line here, line here. But for me, I prefer a line down on each side, sort of going one way to the next way until you have a nice little leafy pattern. I'm going to show you the finished product after I do it, but let's get started with filling. Now, when you fill, you could do a lot more beads, and I'm using bigger beads so you could see the difference. So this is 4 beads. And these are called 2 cuts, if you're curious. So you're going to go down. You're going to go back up. So now we have our first line here, and we're going to go on the other side and do a line here. So we're going to grab a ton of beads. We're basically doing the train track method. We're going to go make the line, and we're going to go across, up and over, making sure that it's staying next to that black line, because at this point we have no lines. So we're going up and over. So we have our 2-line V. Let's start with our 4 beads again. And then if you end up with 3 beads later on, you just remember to go through the middle. Go through the middle, come out from the last 2. And then you're going to grab enough beads so that you fill it to the petal. This is a good point where we're going to talk about letting your beads breathe. You don't want to get it so tight that the frame is being pushed away. You want to keep it in view there where it's not being pushed out too much. You can break a bead at this point. Don't be afraid to leave a little space. That red behind is going to give you a lot of forgiveness. And you're going to have to trust the process at this point because it's not going to look great. And then you're going to see it slowly turn into a petal. So we're going to go in through the last 2. Picking up 2 beads because I'm not sure if we need 2 or 3. And 2 is perfect. So then alternating between 4 beads and 2 beads is very common when you're filling. Don't be afraid to get creative here. The whole point is just to cover up that petal. So we're almost done our V, and you're going to have to remember that your numbers of beads are going to change every time you go in a different direction. So always remembering to start from the beginning where the gem is until you can't reach it anymore. So you can see here we have to go from this edge of that bead. Then we're going to add maybe 3 because we had 4 on the last one. So then it just decreases and decreases until you're back to 1 bead. And then we're going to go through the middle, making sure to tack down that last bead. This just keeps your beadwork nice and smooth. And then I think we're just going to have 1 more bead here. So this is where you kind of look through your beads, find the longest one, and then go. So you're going to go up and through the 1 bead again, just to make sure that it's in the right direction. If you can fit a tiny one, this is where you would fit it here. But also, if it doesn't fit and it's bumping the beads up, you can use your thumb, just like I did there, to put it back in line. So we finished this 1 petal, and you're not sure what it looks like. This is what the end effect will be like once you're done all the petals. This one is still yet to be done, but that gives you the directional beading of the V. So in this poppy, this was going from line and line and line and line. So when you're doing it here, you would just start around the gem and you would go around line to line. So there's no right way, there's no wrong way, but I prefer, just as a starter, try this method. If it doesn't work out for you, you always have this one to lean back on. What we want to think about is what is going to be our next steps after this. Are we going to add rhinestone chain? Are we going to add an extra outline? Are we going to add some bling? This is plastic rhinestone and this is metal rhinestone. The method is the same. What you're going to do is you're going to line it up to the place where you want to start. And you're going to see that they have a little train track on each one. And you're going to just loop it over that train track and pull it in towards your beadwork. You're going to do up and over, like this type of movement over the rhinestone. So you want to do every one when it's a plastic one. A metal one, you have a little more forgiveness because it is more wobbly, more spaces. This one is, you only could pull it so far. So you're going to go up and over. And you're going to see that this rhinestone is laying so nicely next to your beadwork. So here's the side-by-sides. Just the choice is yours. Be creative and don't get discouraged. So this is when we're at our last steps of our poppy. We're already went through, we've already put in the rhinestone chain. The beaded poppy is looking good. We've then have glued it down to our sandwich. So this is what we talked about in the beginning. We now have our beadwork on top, our beading foundation in the middle, and a leatherette piece on the back. We also were mindful to keep the pin slightly on the top. We do that because we want it to hang on the shirt. And if we have it too low or too much in the middle, it might lean forward because the beadwork is a little bit heavy. So another hot tip that I like to use is we use E6000, and it takes about 24 hours to fully cure. So you want to put your sandwich together, squish it together. Some people use cardboard to keep it stiff, and then we let it sit for 24 hours. So we're going to want to cut this out. We've cured it for 24 hours. You could see that it's pretty solid. It's not going to come off. And then we're going to teach you to edge. So to start off, just remember that do not cut the red because the red is now nice and close to your beadwork. And you don't want to lose any of your hard work. So our next steps is to show you how to edge your beadwork. We want to make sure your sandwich is secure. You don't want to show your edging. I want to go through the back of the leatherette and hide your knot there. So that way it has a nice fresh start. And then you're going to do two methods I'm going to show you. There's a 3 bead wrap, which is you pick up 3 beads. And when you have the rhinestone chain, you don't have to skip a bead, but you're just going to go in through the train tracks. So you have these little gaps between the gemstone. That's where you're going to put your needle through. We're going to slide this down, and then it's going to sort of cup that rhinestone, giving it kind of a hat if you would think of it. It keeps the sandwich of your beadwork, your good felt, and your leatherette all put together, and it just finishes off your look. So this gives more of a scallop edged look. So you're picking up 3 beads, and you're just going through the hole that is created between the 2 rhinestone chain gemstones right there. And do you see how it's now making that nice scallop look? Now some people push from behind. I prefer to push from the front because I can see where that hole is right there. So just like the wrap beading, we're going to do the zipper. We're going to tuck that tail in between the sandwich so that it doesn't show. And we're going to, for the first one, we're going to pick up 3 beads. And then we're going to go to that rhinestone. And then we're just going to go through the last bead. That turns the bead like a little bit so that it's sitting more like a triangle on top. Now, the bigger the space between those, the bigger your pointy will be. So let's just try one more so you could see the spacing. And you could see now that these are now the points. So this is where we could use bicones or any other kind of bead to make it fancy. Just making sure you're giving it a bead space so that it can have room to point up. And you could see here the difference in the styles. Let's keep going so you can have a good idea what you'd like to do with your beadwork. So when you do zipper, you start with 3 beads, and that's the only time you start with 3 beads. The next time you're just picking up 2 beads because you're already going out from the last set. So we're going to go out from here, and then you're picking up the 2 beads. And you're going to go in between the space of the rhinestone chain, and you're going to pull up. So now you could see how this has points, and this one, which we did earlier, is more of a scallop. So these are the 2 types of edging you can do with beadwork. So you got your zipper and then you have your wrapped. So now that you have your bead kit, these are the multiple steps you're going to have. You glue down your gem, you start your flat stitch. Here's your flat stitch when you decide to go around the petal. Here's the flat stitch when you're going the crisscross method and train track around the top. This one is how do we fill, and this is the V method. And this one is how to add rhinestone chain to the edge. So here are the two methods of wrap beading and this zipper beading. And this is a finished product just to show you everyone is unique, everyone is different. You know, your creativity, let that guide you. So at Sundaylace Creations, our mission is to teach you Indigenous beadwork styles. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come and shop with Sundaylace Creations. We have all the supplies you need to get started, and enjoy your new poppy.